The next point of discussion that I wanted to talk about with you guys is if you've seen, which you probably have if you're watching this, because I assume that you've been following the case, that JP is going on kind of a TikTok tangent through a third party, and he's attempting to debunk the lies each video. So currently, as I'm recording this, he has shared 6 videos. Each video is pretty short. So I want to
Oh my word, there's 6 of those things now?
go through some of
Oh my goodness.
those videos, some important
Oh gosh, we're gonna go through them. Here we go. I've seen maybe 3 of them, I think.
points and talk about them, because I think there is a lot to dig through here. And I also think it's really interesting, what JP decides to focus on. What he decides is important to talk about. So in the first few videos, he talks about why he has Mica Miller's tattoo. He actually has her signature on his chest. He talks about, why he preached within, 24 hours after she had passed away, how he did everything he possibly could, quote unquote, to save her. And he does talk a little bit about, her cremation. That's kind of the first videos, and we'll go through a little bit here. I'm not really going to address the tattoo situation because honestly, it's low on the totem pole, I think, of importance in regards to the case.
Before that, I just want to talk about the tattoo from the other night. The tattoo that had her signature. It was gotten back in January with her. Oh, about this. And whose idea do you think?
I saw so many people say that is a brand new tattoo, the way it shined and everything. And then the second video where he was talking about it again, he didn't lift his shirt up. He just kind of patted where it was. What do y'all think?
That was.
I'm no tattoo professional by any means. I do have some, but I'm definitely not a professional. I'm not a tattoo artist. If anyone watching this is a tattoo artist, you can maybe chime in. But, by the looks of it, it does not look like he had it done back in January. That would be, what is it, June? Yeah. So that'd be like 6 months ago. It looks pretty fresh to me. Again, I'm no professional, but to me, it looks fresh. He also, this irritated the crap out of me. He also goes on and mentions a few times money, talking about how much things cost in regards to her funeral and different pieces of memorabilia that he paid for.
What? What video was that in? Oh my God. What kind of person gets upset about the final expenses of their spouse or their, any loved one? Can you imagine?
And to me, it's just gross that he's even talking about dollar signs, cost, anything in relation to the passing of Mica. He's supposed to be a grieving husband, which obviously I don't want to use that term because she wanted no part with him. She did not want him to be her husband. But that is the front that he is trying to portray, is that he is a grieving husband. And yet in the same sentence, he's talking about how much money everything costs. It's just very, very gross and hard to listen to. But yeah, like I said, I found it frustrating, the topics that he was focusing on, especially in those first few videos. Of course, he's not focusing on any of the accusations with the stalking and the harassing and the exploiting. He's not even touching the allegations with, of course, inappropriate relations with underage girls. He's not talking about his alibi and how he was actually out with, another woman, or how he was having these inappropriate text messages with a waitress before and after Mica passed, as if nothing had happened. He's not talking anything, obviously, about the circumstances surrounding Mica's passing. He's not talking about the allegations from his first wife, Allison, where she also talks about his insane amounts of stalking and harassment of her. No, he's not talking about that. He's talking about tattoos. He's talking about money. He's talking about just nonsense, a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, some crazy stuff.
If I was being accused of these absolute heinous crimes like harassing and stalking and exploiting and inappropriate relations with underage minors, I would be up there just making a scene. I didn't do it, but
yeah, I try to clear all that kind of gossip up. Holy hell. Everybody watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button real quick.
No. Like that, he doesn't want to address those things. He wants to talk about his tattoo. And, part of me is like, okay, well, maybe he has a lawyer over there saying, hey,
You what?
you can't touch on these topics. And so, I mean, that would make sense, I suppose. But I would also have to think if he does have a lawyer in his ear, I can't imagine that they would be encouraging him to do these TikToks at all, because no matter what he says, it does him no favors. If you read through the comments on any of these videos, there's not anyone in, JP's corner. He is very, very unliked, at least from a public opinion. I don't know. I'm curious to know, in his church, if he still has any members showing up, if there's still anyone that believes that he is a pastor.
There's probably a few. We're going to talk about a lady a little bit later on that I saw a video posted about earlier. Trisha, I think her name was. What was her name, y'all? Let me look. Yeah, Trisha Ross. We're going to talk about her in just a second, a little bit later on.
Something I'm interested to know, too, if anyone has any kind of connections. Are people still going to his church? Because, again, I asked this in my last video, but I just don't see how anybody could listen to this man preach at this point. So, yeah, like I said, he does address, why he preached after Mica passed. And he goes on to say that he basically didn't want to believe it was true, that he had done all this stuff to try and save her. And it was just his odd way of coping or grieving. He addresses this in a TikTok video about how, there's no manual on this. And
you know what always drove me crazy too? Remember how he said that he put the GPS thing on there so that he could track her to make sure that she didn't purchase any kind of firearm, right? That's what he said? Well, why didn't he show up to the pawn shop when she was there doing that? If that's what it was for, then why didn't it happen when that happened? You know what I mean? And then why was he supposedly, or I guess he was, right, in another state with another woman when that happened? Like, it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? That's like saying, oh, I bought this super fancy alarm system for my house because there's been break-ins, in the neighborhood, but then not arming it and leaving your front door open. And you're like,
You what?
huh? Why the hell would you do it? All right, let's keep going.
I was just grieving how I grieve.
I want to just keep living my life as if it never happened.
That doesn't exist now, bro.
Because I wasn't ready to believe that it happened. So the next day I preached like a fool. And then I made my announcement for everybody to be quiet and leave, because like a moment of silence, like you do, in respect. I did it kind of like, I don't want anybody to be talking about, suicide or mental illness or asking me questions, or I just wanted them to leave and go talk to Jesus about it and then talk to me at some later date. I was not prepared to deal with any of it at all, and I'm sure you cannot imagine what it's like to be trying your best to keep somebody alive and then to find out they passed. And then how do you handle yourself in that next 24, 48 hours? I don't think there's a manual on that.
And funny you should say that, because there is, so to speak, a manual on grief. And there are behavior analysis that kind of, pick apart these things and look at someone's behavior and really interpret, different behaviors, mannerisms, all kinds of things that, you or I might not even pick up on. And so I found this clip that I found really interesting. It was a behavior analysis looking at John Paul when he is announcing the death of Mica. And this is what he had to say about it.
I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away. And it was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina. And we're going to have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. And
notice induced. Look up the definition of induced versus inflicted or any of the other word. Look up the proper definition of induced.
It's all
Strange. Maybe it means nothing. Who knows?
I can. Yeah, I'm just kind of going on adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. And she wasn't. Y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally. And
How are you gonna say that when you just said what you said? Everybody in Montreal's been going crazy. Here she is. She wants her 5 seconds of camera time tonight. What you want to say, baby girl? Get it out. Meow 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 meow. Nope. Okay. Goodbye.
she needed her medicine that was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more details to come.
Why was it hard to get to her? You knew where she was, right? You had a GPS tracker. Allegedly.
Okay, what do you
Not allegedly. He admitted to that. Never mind.
make of that?
Again, we're not seeing things we should be seeing. No grief in the forehead, no grief in the face. His expression is blank. It's not sad. We're not hearing the low tone that we should be hearing. Before, we heard the thing where he's at the funeral all whiny and stuff, and his voice is really high. This is where he's trying to show emotion, and he's not really showing any emotion. Again, his arms are far away from his.
And why do you try to show emotion? You know what that's called? Deceit. And why typically do people try to deceive?
Body. Why bring up his wife's medical or not being able to get medicine during this? That's called a qualifier. He's qualifying what's happened to her. These are all this is so, it's horrible, but it's really good when you want to show someone the body language of what shouldn't be happening when someone's grieving.
I also think it's ironic in his TikTok video where he's talking about how he announced it, where he said, I just didn't want anyone in the church, talking about mental health or unaliving or anything like that. Instead, I wanted them to go home and talk to Jesus about it.
What?
It's just really ironic because he has no problem, airing Mica's alleged mental health problems in front of, his congregation. He talks
Yeah, that's the truth.
about mental health and her issues. We don't really know if they're real or not, but what he says are Mica's issues. He has no problem, talking about all of that with his congregation. But when he announces this horrific news, his reasoning as to why he told people to just be quiet and leave and not talk about it was because he didn't want people, talking about mental health within the church. Make that make sense to me when he has no problem talking about it, himself, but no one else can talk about it. Which it's interesting. I'm not going to go off on this tangent right now, but I've been following on a Facebook group, Justice for Mica, and some of the members of his church or like the videographer or something like that, multiple people have come out and said that they've been delivered a cease and desist from JP, so they can't, they're not supposed to be talking about anything. He's always trying to silence everybody, but man, does the man run his mouth. Also in this same video,
Yes, he does.
JP goes on to say that he went to multiple different professionals saying that if Mica didn't get her lithium, that she was going to unalive herself. He said he went to police officers, to judges, to doctors, to families. But specifically, those professionals that he listed, like the officers, the doctors, the judges, he said he went to them and said if she didn't get her medication, she was going to unalive herself.
I spent the past 3.5 months doing everything I could to keep her alive. My goal was every single day to find somebody, some way to get her medicine, because I told them that she was going to commit suicide if she did.
I've been trying for days and months and years, and all I was trying to do was get her medicine. Why are you talking like this? Talking about that subject. That's weird. TikTok, you can't see the video, so come over to YouTube and watch it. But he's just like, he's like doing one of these, just like, I don't know why, but for months, days, and years. It's weird.
Didn't get her lithium. And I went to her pastors, counselors.
Poke myself in the eye,
doctors,
too. That sucks. It's all right. I'll live.
policemen, judges, friends, family, roommates, everybody you could possibly think of, and nobody believed me. So to get that call that night that it happened, I'm sure you can imagine what a failure I felt
Brandon, thank you.
like, as well as this just can't be true. It became my worst nightmare. There's no way.
Now, I'm calling total BS on this. They
Ding, 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 ding.
have a duty to uphold. If you go to an officer, if you go to a doctor If you go to a judge and you tell them that someone is going to unalive themselves if they don't get the medication that they need, these people are obligated to step in and do something. So for him to make claims that he went to these people to get her help, there would be documentation. There would be some kind of documentation trail if that were the case. Those are receipts that I would like to see from JP. Receipts showing that he went to health professionals, medical professionals, police officers, saying that she needed her medication or she was going to unalive herself. There would be documentation of that. That would be a receipt that would be worth showing JP if you actually did that. Instead, we get receipts from him showing how much he paid for jewelry. No one cares. All right, and then as his TikTok...
Damn. She said, and no one cares. By the way, y'all, this is the Coffee and Crime podcast. She's only got 458 subscribers, so we need to go show her some love and subscribe to her channel, y'all. It's down in the description. Let's get her to at least 1,000. All right, let's keep going.
Series, carries on. JP talks about the circumstances surrounding Mica's cremation. And so he has talked about this a few times. First time he said it was due to religious beliefs that she was cremated. And then he goes on to say in another interview
because with everything we know about that man, he really seems to be doing the walking the straight and narrow, right? Walking the path of the righteous, aren't you? The righteous.
Something that she was cremated because of the way that she died.
Past TikTok overlords, entertainment and educational purposes only. TikTok overlords, don't be weirdos and do what you did the other night and shut down the stream just because we're talking about a case like this. I see you, TikTok overlords. That one upset me.
There's been a couple different circumstances that he's claimed as to why cremation was the choice made. And I think a lot of people are just taking issue with this in general because it doesn't seem ethical that JP would have any say in whether or not Mica gets cremated at all. They were separated. She was filing for divorce. They were estranged from one another. She wanted no part of JP. If you look at her social media account, if you hear the way she was talking, she wanted nothing to do with this man. So why he has any say in whether or not she gets cremated is, it just doesn't seem right. It doesn't sit right with people because it's not right. It's wrong. Everything about this case is just mind-boggling to me and frustrating. And I feel so bad for the family that they're even going through this and having to deal with someone like JP. But here's what JP has to say about Mica being cremated.
I texted the entire family and said, I'd love for you to come and see Mica's body. Here's the times that the funeral home says is best. They thumbed up the message, and about an hour after that, they posted on Facebook that I would not let them see Mica's body. Please help me understand that. They said I forced them to sign some cremation paper that I knew nothing about, had no idea what they were talking about. Days later, I was given this piece of paper that the mom and dad both signed saying they wanted Mica to be cremated, and they chose to have that, which I totally agree.
Where is that paper?
Agreed with because of the way that she passed away. I thought that was what was best, but nobody forced them to sign anything, and I don't even know what they're talking about with that. They said that I pushed the cremation to happen quickly to hide things. The national average is 3 days because after that, the body starts to smell.
Why would you know that?
She was cremated 6 days after she passed away so that her ashes would be ready for the funeral the next day.
And then put this in comparison to what Mica's sister has to say in regards to Mica being cremated.
Even her own family couldn't even see her whenever the funeral, she was in the other room. And legally, like the funeral home owner was so awesome. He was calling up our lawyer, his lawyer, like, what can I do to let this family see or their daughter, sister? And there was nothing that they could do because John Paul and her were still married, even though they had filed for divorce.
Yeah, the divorce hadn't gone through, so legally they were still married. Damn.
Separation, everything. So, and saying that, we had to come back. We had to leave and come back. And in order to see her, our parents, per John Paul, our parents had to sign that she would be cremated before we were allowed to see her. So either we don't see her and we don't get her ashes, because he was going to figure out a way to get her cremated anyways, is what he was saying. So either sign it and do it easily so you can see her, or just put up a fight and you don't get to see her anyway.
Jesus.
You what?
And see, that's the thing, is that when you get these two things right, where you're like, okay, well, somebody is lying, right? Somebody isn't telling the truth. And then you look at the track record and you say, okay, well, the family really has no reason to lie about this. And then you look at him and you're like, he's got a lot of reasons to lie about this. And we have proof and receipts of him lying in the past. So we know his character, we know what he's capable of, but we're just supposed to believe him. Meanwhile, the family's like, no, this is what happened. What do y'all think? Thumbs up in the chat. Thumbs up. You think you agree with the family? Thumbs down. You agree with old John Paul Miller. Speaking of thumbs up, YouTube, hit the thumbs up button.
So our parents' hands were tied. It was the hardest thing that my mom said it was the hardest thing that she's ever done.
And I don't know about you, but she's given us no reason not to believe her. And JP has given us
That part.
plenty of reasons not to believe him.
Thank you. Thank you. I literally took the words right out of my mouth.
In JP's next video, he talks about alleged bruises that Mica has on her hands and basically outright denies these claims.
I saw her body 4 times. I saw her once in the hospital, 3 times in the funeral home. The hospital that prepared her body for me to see it, the nurse and the medical examiner said there were no bruises, and Robinson County said there were no bruises, and the funeral home who washed her entire body and put her in pajamas for us to see her body said there were no bruises. So 4 independent parties say no bruises, but then you have the one who wait until days after she's cremated, and there's no proof. They didn't take any pictures. They didn't tell anyone when they
said they did. The dad said they did take pictures. And why are you driving and recording a video? That's illegal. Can't they write him a ticket for that? There's proof right there.
Supposedly saw it. They wait till later and say, everybody, hey, there's bruises on her body, bruises on her body. Why in the world would we believe that?
So after she had
And you say body, but they said hands. So maybe there were no bruises on her body, like her midsection body, but the parents, the dad said hands specifically.
passed, they saw bruising on.
Is that just him trying to hit a diversion tactic there? There's nothing on the body because it's the hands.
Mica's hands when they went to see her body. And, they even asked I believe it was the medical examiner, could these bruises have happened from being pulled out of the water after she had passed away? And they said no, because once the heart stops, no blood is pumping through the body. You cannot get bruises on your body after your heart stops pumping blood. And so if there were any bruises on Mica, then it would have to be before she passed away. So the family says that they took pictures of these bruises on Mica's hands. Now JP flat out denies these claims, said there was no bruises on Mica. The family says otherwise.
Or they're bruises from people who grabbed her from the water, the examiners. He said it's not possible for the body to bruise after the heart has stopped. So those bruises were on her before she was in the water.
Whoa.
So they don't have any photographs of the bruises. They don't have any idea what we're talking about. And all of our family is looking at each other while we're finally able to try to maybe mourn this instead of fighting. We couldn't even mourn. We, at that moment, even seeing her there, had to still fight. We were taking videos and pictures of her body to get proof before she was cremated, because no one else was going to do that but us.
And
See that part right there. That part right there.
also in one of these videos, like I said, he keeps talking about money. Yeah, he shares a receipt from the funeral home showing all of the different costs. I think he's trying to basically show how much he spent on different memorabilia
Why
for
on
the family.
earth would you show a receipt from the funeral? Of all the things you could post, the receipt for the funeral? That's so trashy.
and whatnot, as if it matters or anyone really cares about that. But he did share those receipts, and a lot of people took.
That's not the receipts people are talking about, Jay Pizzle. That's not the receipts people are talking about. Not literal receipts from that.
Took a closer look at the documents and saw at the top the date said, instead of the date of like the transaction, actually said Mica's date of her death. And so a lot of people were up in arms about that. Like, how could you pay for her cremation and all of this memorabilia on the date of her death when she had just passed away, when she was supposedly,
Oh, that's a good point.
still in the hospital? How could you have paid for all this? Well, that has been confirmed that apparently that's like common practice to put at that date there the individual's date of their death. I think that's kind of odd, but apparently that has been confirmed with the funeral home that's like normal practice to put that date of death there. But anyway, yeah, he shared that receipt. And again, it's just like,
Cassie, thank you.
Why does he find that important? Why does he think that people...
Why do you think? If you don't want people, why do you think a magician's like, hey, look over here, and then something happens over here? Hey, look over here. Look over here, hey. And then something else is happening over there.
care, like, as he's trying to,
Distraction.
say that, like, oh, I did the family, all these favors by, buying this memorabilia for them, which he also goes on to say they had to buy the cheap stuff. So it kind of backfired on him because it doesn't look very, I don't know what he was going for, but again, no one cares. And so this last video that JP shared was not even 24 hours ago with me recording this. And this one, out of all of them, I think was, for me, the most disturbing to listen to.
Is this the newest one?
Personally. And so I'm going to actually share the whole video here so we can talk about it a little bit.
Okay, first of all, somebody was making fun of me because I sniff. I have a tick. I had a tick since I was a kid, so that's what it is. At some point, we're going to have to recognize in time that this story is about mental illness awareness more than anything else. My wife was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder, schizophrenia, dependent personality disorder, and several other diagnoses by different doctors at different times all throughout the past 7 years. The two diagnoses that stayed with her every single year was schizophrenia and bipolar 2. Bipolar 2 is where you're super high and you want to give away $1,000. The low is you want to end your life. And she went super high and super low many, many times over the years. And it was a struggle, almost a constant struggle, but we got through it.
Man, oh no. We saw you pretty low in that front yard doing the whole... That's pretty low.
We got through it. And
we got through it? Excuse me? You sure about that?
Schizophrenia is where she would hear voices or talk to people that were not there. She'd play chess with people that were not there without a chessboard. She would sometimes forget who I was or forget.
What the hell?
Forget that I was her husband. She'd forget who she was.
I'd want to forget you too. When justice for Mica, when it is finally served, I'm gonna forget about you too. I'd want to forget about you. What the hell? Nobody wants to remember you. It sucks that people are, because you're infamous, not famous, infamous. But everybody wants to forget about you. Literally I speak for everyone. I'm fairly certain I speak for everyone. We all want to forget about you.
Or forget that she was my wife. Sometimes she'd forget who her family is, things like that. And on March 11th, remember that date, because you super sleuths out there are going to need to know that date for the future. March 11th, something happened that kind of forever changed the course of our lives. And she went really deep into the schizophrenia and was delusional and accusing me of certain things, slashing tires or sending a naked picture. Or
you admitted to all that stuff, though. You admitted to all that. But now you're trying to say that it's something she made up in her mind?
Stalking her, things like that I didn't do. And
you already already admitted to that. Y'all, is this backpedaling right now? He's like, oh yeah, I admit all this stuff. But actually, she made it all up because of the voices in her head. Huh?
And I found an Apple AirTag in my car, in my truck that week, and I assumed it was hers because I would keep seeing her pop up where I was at. Here's a video
Oh, she Apple AirTagged you?
of I was at a gas station on March 13th, and I look up and I see this very beautiful woman in a car that I've never seen before, and I learned quickly, of course, it was my wife, and she was hiding out or spying or something, and began videotaping me, and so I videotaped her videotaping me, but you know, it's sad that the mental illness is sad, but we managed to always find lightheartedness in life in spite of it, and we always got through it. And I would do things like sometimes I have to play into the delusion, like pretend like I was a double agent who quit their job to marry this beautiful girl. And
that's literally the plot to Shutter Island, JP. Oh my God. What are you trying to do? Is this Shutter Island 2? You sound crazy as hell right there. Well, what happens is, you see, I was on this ship with this guy next to me, and I was driving in on this island, and who is 49 or whatever, 27 or whatever the hell it was.
And I'd have to show her our mayor's license. And one time I even wrote a resignation to an agency saying that I can no longer work for you because I fell in love and wanted to get married, and things like that. It would help her take her medicine when she would come off of it. And I learned that about 2 years into the marriage. And
so you're just admitting to lying. You're admitting to feeding into delusions and lying and coercing her to take things. That's what I hear there. I had to lie to her. I had to do these things, create fake documents. I heard that too. Did you hear that too? So you're creating things, documents, supposedly official documents, they're fake? That's hello? What? You just self-snitching. Like everything you just said is horrible. Why would you even say that? Oh my God. Like we're supposed to go, oh, he did all this stuff just for her. What are you talking about? Y'all, let's keep going. This dude is crazy as hell.
And we worked hard to keep her on her medicine. We worked very hard to keep her enjoying.
Who's we?
In her life, she didn't have to cook a single meal. She didn't have to clean. She didn't have to work. She just had to take her medicine and enjoy her life. And we did our best with what
That sounds terrible.
we had. But here's a video of March 13th.
So to me, this video is a great example of gaslighting. By definition, gaslighting is an abusive or manipulation tactic with the goal of confusing or placing self-doubt into the victim's mind. And this is exactly what JP is attempting to do here with the public. And I guarantee what he's done many of times with his past relationships with Mica, with his followers in the church, with his friends, with his family. I guarantee you JP tends to gaslight people, and this is definitely what he's trying to do with the public here. He's trying to act like we don't have, tangible, actual proof of the things that he has been caught doing, like the stalking, the harassing, the exploiting. We have documentation of it. And not just from Mica's affidavits. We have her family members' affidavits. We have his ex-wife's affidavit. We have a police officer saying that when she was filing for a restraining order, a man was stalking her. The name is redacted in the documentation, but we know it's JP. You know, he had to tell this person to stop calling her or there would be repercussions. The police officer and the documentation let us know that Mica was fearing for her life. We have an email from JP apologizing for leaving the topless photo of Mica up on the internet.
Yeah, doing all that stuff. Literally.
Even though it was only for an hour, he was sorry and he took it down. We have proof, JP, that you did these things, that you have stalked, harassed, exploited. People are not saying this because we think it. We know it. We've seen it. And so the fact that he's just trying to deny, like, oh, you know, like, oh, she's crazy. She's crazy. And I just played into her delusions. But yeah, I think he's trying to gaslight the public into, you know, thinking that basically Mica was crazy and he didn't really do these things, and he's trying to make it about mental health awareness. If people dig, which I hope that they do, I hope that they find out and they hope they look into it a little bit more and never take him for his word, because he is not a truthful man. From the comments, again, it doesn't look like anyone is believing him. I hope that he still doesn't have anyone at his congregation or anyone that believes anything that comes out of his mouth. But from what I can see, the general public can smell him from a mile away. No one, from what I can see, believes anything that's coming out of his mouth.
Also,
Yup.
I'm not really sure, you know, what he was trying to prove with that last clip, which was, you know, he says Mica stalking him and videotaping him. You know, I don't think it's going to do for him what he wanted it to do. I don't think anyone's going to believe for a second that that is the story. You know, he says that that was, you know, going to prove that Mica was stalking him, when it doesn't even look that way. It looks like he was probably stalking her and she was filming him stalking her. I mean, that would fit the narrative. And if you look at the car, I'm pretty sure that's either a spare or a donut tire, which would make sense because of all the times that he slashed her tires. You know, I don't think that video is going to do what he hoped it would.
And honestly, it absolutely irks me that he keeps trying to talk about Mica's alleged mental health problems. It's nobody's business. Not only may it be completely untrue and he can just spew this without her being here to defend herself, but even if it were true, he has no right. He has no right to talk about her personal health, her mental health, anything with the public. Talk about your own mental health if you want to bring up mental health awareness. You have no right talking about Mica like that, especially when she's not here to defend herself. And we know for certain that JP has mental health problems. So if you want to bring awareness to mental health, use yourself as an example. He's got plenty of issues that he can shed light to. We've seen it.
No, not this video again. Thank God it's not the whole thing.
Is somebody helping you? Oh, okay.
And then before I share this next clip, I just want to go over another definition. I think it's important, and that is the definition of projection. Because I think
Oh, yup. Ding, ding, ding.
I think you'll see why I think it's important to know what projection means. So psychological projection is a behavior known in psychology as a defense mechanism. It's an unconscious way of coping with emotional conflict and discomfort. And when someone engages in projection, they attribute their own behaviors, emotions, characteristics, or impulses to another person or group.
Not realize until this past week that I'm supernatural. And so,
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
I'm telling you this so that you can be encouraged that God can use you. So for the past 4 weeks, I've had the most horrible battle and horrible time of my entire life. I've never, ever, not even close, been through what I'm going through right now in life. Not even close. Horrible. I mean, horrible so bad.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Oh, boo-hoo. You're having problems. You're having little problems. Life isn't easy for you, Mr. JP. Me, 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 me. Get over it.
I'm seeing a psychiatrist every week. I'm on 900 milligrams of lithium. I'm seeing a counselor every week. I'm going to inner healing. I'm going
Oh, my goodness.
Emotional damage.
to deliverance 3 times a week with pastors in the area. I'm doing everything I can just to be able to get out of bed. I'm so depressed. I want to die. I'm battling suicidal thoughts. I have unforgiveness, hatred, demons coming out of me.
And again, I've said this a few times in my previous videos. I'm not saying
Try to be a better person. Try to be a better person. Work on yourself. Don't rely on all this other stuff to do it for you. You can only go see those people and take that medicine and do that stuff for so long before, if you don't want to make the change and you don't decide to change your behavior, then all of that's in vain. All of that is in vain. Let's go.
whether I believe JP did or did not have anything to do with, directly do with the circumstances surrounding Mica's passing. I'm not saying whether I do or don't believe that.
Cassie Tracy, thank you.
But I can absolutely see why people question it, why people question the circumstances surrounding her unaliving, why people question the
Yeah, Lily, thank you. Kelly, thank you.
circumstances with whether or not JP has any kind of involvement. And it's because statistics say that we should question. So according to the World Health Organization, a partner or spouse is the unaliver in about 38% of women homicides. And the CDC says that the partner or spouse is the unaliver in about 50% of women's homicides. So that's a huge
Way too many
number. That's a huge proportion of women homicides where the partner is the perpetrator. And so when you're looking at statistics and when you're looking at JP's history and all of the tangible evidence that we have of JP being an abuser, all of the documentation of JP stalking and harassing, we would not be logical thinkers if we did not question JP's involvement. And I use the term logical thinkers because JP likes to use that term. He likes to call out all logical thinkers. Well, we would not be logical thinkers if we did not question things, because the situation and the circumstances don't look good for you. The things that you say do not shed you in a good light. And nobody believes anything that comes out of your mouth. I want to end this video though with another clip of Mica. Mica doing something that she absolutely loved to do, which of course is worshiping, but singing. She was a beautiful singer and she loved to sing. And I think it's a great way to close out
We've seen that video and it's, yeah, she was incredible, y'all.
today's video.
She
I
was-
want to start
She was absolutely
with
incredible.
Mica and I want to end it with Mica. And I encourage everyone to continue talking about Mica and sharing Mica's story. It's important. It's important that we keep talking about this until justice is served for Mica. There is a lot of unfinished business here, and I think that if we keep talking about it, hopefully justice will be served. Before I show you the clip though of Mica singing, if you haven't visited the website yet of justiceformica.com, I really recommend that you do. It's an incredible tribute to Mica. It's run by either a family or a family friend, but it goes over Mica's law. It also does list a few places that you can donate to help the family continue their fight in pursuing justice for Mica. So if you haven't visited the website yet, I really recommend that you do, and also share that with any family or friends as well.